Tsangari with us. I'm Tímea. I'm from Hungary, a writer, and with Paula, who is a researcher, we're moderating tonight's Q&A. Are there already questions in the audience? No problem.
Let's warm it up.
Yeah. So you started your artistic career as a performance artist. I also worked in theater as a dramaturg, and I experienced that performances can change with the relationship of the artist to the performance. And I was wondering if, since the film's premiere, 14 years have passed, and did your relationship to the film change, or how is your relationship with your finished movies?
Attenberg is very dear to me. It was not my first feature. Oh. Yes, we do that. Can you hear me? Yes? Attenberg is actually my second feature. The first feature, The Slow Beach of Going, was my thesis film at film school. Made very handmade, made for nothing. But in a way, that film was very much a laboratory for the way I have been working since then. In terms of the physicality of the characters on the page and then on the film. It's interesting when you come from theater, and it's not that I was really working a lot in theater. I left Greece quite early to study in America. But I was, Greece is a place where theater is God, so there's 1,000 or more theater troops in Athens alone. So we grow up watching theater. And I studied theater. So my approach to cinema was as a dramaturg, meaning what? That the script is not a sacred, it's never a sacred piece of text for me. It's something that it needs to exist in the beginning in order to destroy it. And I destroy it during rehearsals. And when I say destroyed, everything changes once I cast and I start rehearsing. And the rehearsals can be 2 or 3 months. Ariane Lebet, who plays Marina, she didn't speak a word of Greek, so it was also a process of her acquiring a language as her character and acquiring a physical language where in the first month of rehearsals no one uttered a single word because we're just doing we were physicalizing the character. So we watched lots of Sir David Attenborough, and every actor chose their favorite animal. So then we're just talking in a way, just through animal behaviors. I don't know if I answered your question, but this was something that I had started working in a physical way, and always undermining the big drama with humor. So this is something that I'm still working with. It evolves. Every film is very different. I never try to do the same thing or using the same language.
I was wondering about the casting procedure. You mentioned before that you take time to cast, to find your characters, and we witness these characters on screen I found them very complex, nuanced, not black and white. So I was wondering what exactly you were looking for when you casted, especially the lead, Marina. So can you explain, elaborate, like if you had any special visions about what you like to find?
Another difficult thing about working in a country where 99% of the actors are trained for theater is that it's very difficult to find actors who understand screen presence. Usually in theater, the acting, or at least in classical theater, it's very big. It's projecting everywhere. So I knew I was not looking for that. And I was also looking, Vangelis Morikis, who is playing the father, is actually our only, still until today, the only screen actor in Greece who refuses to do anything that's cinema. So this was, I knew, he was gonna be understated. He loves rehearsals, and he's very generous as an actor. He was not gonna be like, the imposing father or anything like that. To find Marina, it took, I think it was like 9 months of just meeting young actresses and just talking with them. We don't work with the script, we don't know the script, it's just talking. For a long time, sometimes 3 or 4 times until I give them a scene and then we start talking about the scene. It's really not about anyone being faithful to what's on the page, because what they're going to come up with is going to be so much better than what I was thinking when I was alone writing. So the most sacred process for me is auditions, but it's not auditions, it's discussions until we both, and it's a mutual casting process. They also have to accept me as someone that we're going to be working together for months, and then also traveling together for festivals, which is it's a marriage, Yeah, so it took about 9 months. She comes from, she's a dancer and a choreographer and a performer in devised theater, so she was very familiar with improvisation and not really settled on textual relationship with narrative. I had to convince her to do it, She said, I never want to be an actress. And then with this film, she won the Coppa Volpi in Venice. So it all turned out great. But I really had to convince her because I just saw something that was not self-conscious about her. And she didn't want to do it the same way Marina didn't want to be. She didn't want to kiss, she didn't want to be, she didn't want to have a friend. She didn't want to, So that was the character. So I recognized this in Ariane, and she was really the only one who could do it. And I keep working this way I did a film after that's not playing here, called The Capsule, which is in a way the prequel to Chevalier. So it was 7 women working with the idea of power, patriarchy, and coming into our own as women and humans. So again, that also happened, assembling a whole cast from actors from all over the world, actually, who came together for 3 days, and we shot the film in 3 days. So it's different ways depending on what the film demands.
Audience, do you have any questions maybe? Yes.
Yeah, I'm just asking if you have any advice and tips for someone who wants to become a director.
You have to really want it, because it's torture, and every single step in the way is so difficult, and you're up against the universe for every single step. And you also have to really love people, because it's the most collaborative. It's not like writing and be you and a page, or you and a painting, or you and your instrument as a musician. It really takes a village. So it's all about actually loving humans and wanting to work with humans, and also to be able to quickly, even if you have no idea if that's right, to say yes or no. To make decisions. You never know if these decisions will be the right ones, but they will be your decisions. So that's my, I think, advice. And to also never forget, when you had an idea in the beginning, to not let anyone have you forget why you wanted to make that film. Because there's so many detours that you can take throughout this endless process of making a film. And if you forget what you set out to do, suddenly it becomes a film by committee. And that film usually is never good. Yeah.
Yes, I had a question about your approach to this animal view of things, the characters choosing, or the actors choosing an animal to kind of embody. Can you share which animal they chose and who you felt embodied them the most, or took it kind of the way you want it in portraying the character for the film?
I don't remember. It was not important. The important thing that was that each one was really attached to her animal spirit. And to tell you the truth, they were also cheating, because I think in the beginning they both chose some kind of birds. We watched at least 2 or 3 series by Sir David Attenberg. We really watched and we talked about the different behaviors. Because it's all about surviving. It's all about perpetuating your species. It's all about family. That's how he's building his series too. They're narratives of, in a way, family, kinship building, in the animal world. It's not just look how beautiful they are, or yeah, I don't remember. I think it was some insects, some birds, definitely birds. I mean, you can see it. They love the penguins. So they started from something and said, okay, that's my animal, I'm going to stick to that. And then I just saw that they were just sometimes switching, bringing other animals in, which was, of course, important, because since we were not rehearsing the script, they had to keep bringing different little status of behavior in order to each one of them express their character. So by the time, we were rehearsing with just 2 of them, then Vangelis came as the father, so I think he was like a big mammal. I think it was an elephant. Then Yorgos came as the love interest. So every time I would add just one more character. And then in the last 2 weeks, we actually went through the script. But by that time, they knew each other so well. They had danced, they had, fooled around, they had spent nights until morning, like drinking, and you know what I mean? So they were very comfortable with each other. And so when we actually, I opened the script and we started rehearsing with the script, all of the words that came out was their own. maybe half of the script is still what I wrote, and then the rest. And some of the stuff they said, oh, you know, I don't like these words. I'm just gonna go like, woo, 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 woo. Because to me that represents more what she feels at that point. You know, whether it's grief or desire or excitement. And then throughout the whole time, of course, you know, I had the music, so they're also responding. You know, the soundtrack is, in a way, you know, the suicide was part of the script, you know, so we knew that there was a scene where she's gonna talk about suicide of her dying father. So music, references that are other than what's your motivation, you know, I never do this. They have to figure it out. You know, they have to dig very deep also through themselves as through their own baggage, you know, and bring stuff in that I'm not going to force or manipulate. And so when I'm on the set, I'm basically an observer. You know, I'm a very happy observer because I've done my job by casting. And by spending lots of time with my script to understand what it is I want to say. And that was quite a personal film for me because it was about my dad. It was not 100% the story, but it was a story that I really knew. And again, I think Bella, you know, the woman who plays Bella, she's one of the most celebrated dancers in Greece. So she is not an actress either. And there was something so beautiful about both of them working with their bodies and not saying, I'm an actor, you know. And in the end, I think they were amazing. As I said, Ariane got the Coppa Volpi in Venice with the first part she ever did. And then after that, she became a full-fledged actor. And right now, 14 years later, she was just in Cannes having directed her first film. So, you know, there was destiny. And in a way, when you work in a film, you know, going back to your question, you build a community, you build common destinies. I keep working with the same people, the same crew. I repeat lots of the same cast because once you establish a vocabulary and we've treated well each other, the process of making a film and the humanity of making it, to me, it's more important than the film itself. You know, if that part works, then the film works. In a certain, you know, I don't make films for everyone. You know, people have harassed me in Greece for Attenberg, you know, in the street, like very aggressive about it. But I didn't make it for them.
Quite peculiar. It was the movie came out in 2010, so the Greek society was still fresh during the crisis. I was wondering if it was at least in part a social commentary about cross-generational differences, about losing independence, about Marina who needs to make friends, and Greece was working on everything on their own because they could before the crisis, and then they were suddenly forced to cooperate with whole Europe about their debt, and so there was this conversation on the roof of the hospital about Greek society just skipping some steps in the evolution, being lucky, right, and getting to where they are. But suddenly everything collapsed. I was just thinking if it was at least part of the symbolism of this story, or am I absolutely overinterpreting it?
No, you're absolutely right. It's a very incisive an intuitive comment. But actually, the big, the big bang happened. The Big Bang happened after Attenberg premiered. So, if you're someone who senses things, and you're really part of society, of course, everyone knew that something was going wrong. And also, it came from someone, sometimes when you're not quite, I'm always an outsider wherever I am. I had left my country when I was 20. I came back and Attenberg, and I had made, since the Slow Bishop going, I had made films as a producer but not directed. So in a way, suddenly I was like, I'm ready to make a film. I didn't know why. And I knew I wanted to make a film about this girl who does not belong. And she has to deal with desire and death at the same time. And I didn't know this because I don't question this. I don't, it's a film that we did ourselves. I didn't have to go to any shoots or any studios or any funders and try to justify what this film is about. I completely instinctually, I knew that, an entire era of myself and my country were about to end, and that was coinciding. It was a sense. And my dad represented that, in a way. And in a very strange way, in a way, I made this film in order to be able to say goodbye to my dad, who was totally fine and healthy and everything. And I could sense something though, because he got sick 3 years later, and he passed away. So, sometimes, I make cinema for a reason. I cannot tell you why, but it's my way of being present and of coping with past, present, and future. The town where I shot is my childhood town. It's a company town established by the French. My dad was an engineer there. That's where the autobiography stops. The town now is a ghost town. And so it really represents a moment in Greece where it was going to be this revolution in terms of industrializing it, in terms of a robust economy. But in the end, it was a colonized place. The colonial power came, depleted all of the resources left, and now it's a ruin. Like the entire Greece right now, where the only thing that works is tourism. So we become, the Florida of Europe, and worse. So because I had been away from my country for about 10, 12 years, I was in America. When I came back, it really struck me that there's death, the anticipation of death all around me. I didn't question it, but I knew this is the country, the film I needed to make. And so that's one. And then the other, I always start with one image, because I don't write the story from beginning to end. I just write out of order and on napkins and on notebooks that then I lose and, completely disorganized. But I like this because I invite chaos, because I resist orderly things, too much tidy.
Sparks creativity.
Excuse me?
Sparks creativity.
Yeah. So I started, I just, taking notes. I was producing, and I knew that as a producer, I could make things happen. We already had our collective. So the moment I had this image, which is those two girls in front of a white wall, and one of them hates kissing, and the other one is trying to teach her how to kiss, I knew that I had a movie. And then I started interrogating that image. It's like, where did that happen? Who are they? That's not my story, by the way. The story is the milieu. It's like the macro image, the town, and what it means politically and socially. So once I had that first image, then I started asking questions excitedly. Who are they? Where do they come from? Do they have families? Do they have friends? How old are they? Someone else had a question?
I think we have time for one more.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for that wonderful and strange film. Watching it, I felt at times this intense kinship between your film and a movie called Casey's.
Oh.
And I was wondering just whether that film in particular maybe was on your radar when you were making Attenberg, or whether you felt yourself to be in sort of conversation or in dialogue with particular films or filmmakers when you were working on this film.
I had never seen Daisies, which is incredible because so many people after I premiered it, so many people started mentioning it in articles and whatever, that I felt really embarrassed actually. So I watched it and then I realized, yeah, they're sister films, for sure. And then after I saw Chitilova's every film, yeah, there's lots of similarities, but I don't think that was by chance. She was also making Daisies in a kind of like similar era of transition, and trying to break through a very male language in cinema, which is what I was trying to break through in Greek cinema. I'm also a voracious cinephile, but for some reason, I guess because it hadn't been shown in Greece and it was the years before you could download illegally films and, but yeah. If I had, my influence since my first film, The Slow Bees of Going, which you can download it illegally, very freely. I come very much from Greek tragedy, ancient Greek tragedy, ancient Greek comedy, Beckett, Brecht, Ionesco. These are my mentors in my process. And then, I wanted to start with as simple a language. Every scene has just 3 shots, if any. Very simple, simply constructed narrative with the idea of the voices and the cadence of the voices were much more important than anything on the image. I kept telling my cast, it's like a musical without the music, where the cadence was an important part in the way we built it. But then every film is different. The references are always so hybrid that in the end, I always forget. Cassavetes is a huge hero of mine. Thank you very much.